I have smelled it, and it smells bad.
And it's always the juice, right?
It's generally the juice. I mean, I'm sure you could eat the grass, but it's grass, and we don't digest grass very well, so it'd be a whole lot of fiber, so it would kind of just go through you. And
yeah, you need the fiber from the vegetables anyway.
Exactly. If you really liked wheatgrass, if you like the taste, it's got some nutrients in it, but it's... I don't have a good answer. If you really like it, you can include it in part of a balanced diet. I'm not going to tell you not to, but there are other green vegetables out there that are as nutritious or more nutritious, likely cheaper, easier to come by. You don't have to go to, Booster Juice or someplace like that to get it. You can get green vegetables at any grocery store. And finally, the methods of action that they keep saying happen just simply don't work in the human body. So in terms of those, it's really not a superfood. The last food I want to talk about was green tea today. We've heard a lot about this. It's really the new popular drink. In fact, it's gained a lot of popularity compared to coffee here in the West. So there has been there's been a lot of interest, both in researchers and in the public. So some of its claims, again, a high source of antioxidants, helps prevent or cure disease. Particularly, you'll hear about cancers or cardiovascular disease are big ones. Promotes weight loss. This is a really big one in the weight loss diet program world. And again, improves insulin tolerance, decreases blood pressure. Again, it's one of those you name it, it cures it kind of foods. So some of the evidence for this. Research is in its infancy stages for green tea at best. Some of the makers of a green tea extract were trying to put a health claim, a nutritional health claim on some of their products, saying that it could help prevent cardiovascular disease. And the FDA in the United States actually recently denied them and made them take off this claim. Because the research that they were using was mainly, again, it was in vitro trials and a couple of animal trials. And there's really no randomly controlled trials. There's nothing further than that to say that, yes, this food actually has this benefit in a living human being that lives a daily life. So I'm not saying that one day we won't know whether or not it does. Right now we simply don't. So we can't make that claim. Yes, Jan?
So is that the general progression of research then? We start with in vitro, then we go to animal, then we go to humans?
Generally, that's how it goes, particularly in pharmaceutical and in nutritional research. We start in a petri dish, we start with certain compounds, then we go to animals. It's usually mice, sometimes rats, depending on what they're looking at. Then we go to human trials, but then there's also many levels of human trials before we can really come up with an answer or a dosage of a certain food or drug or something like that. So to take conclusions from in vitro or petri dish trials and say you should take this much in your daily life is a huge step, and there's so many areas that we just don't know about in there. There's also been some research in cancer prevention or reduction and heart attack reduction in some populations that consume a lot of green tea. These are epidemiological studies, which are important for us to know about how things seem to work. But again, there's a big gap between those and the making a formal conclusion about something. So there is some evidence out there, but it's really in its infancy stages, and we really need to go a lot further before we can make any of these claims. The next thing, the weight loss claim. You'll see a lot of weight loss products that have the green tea or green tea extract in them. There have been a couple of trials done where they used a green tea extract as their test group, and they had a couple of control groups as well. And in those two trials, the green tea group had a 4% increase and an 8% increase, respectively, of calories burned. But if you look at, which sounds okay, but when you look in the greater context, that means that they were burning about 80 to 160 calories more per day than anybody else. So over the span of a week, that's not even half of a pound that those people are burning more than green tea. So not that that's not a contributor to weight loss, absolutely, but it's definitely not the cure-all, don't change your life, don't change your diet, just do this, and you'll lose 3 pounds a week kind of thing. Yes?
Could they have been more active because there's more caffeine in there than not getting it at all?
Well, and that's something too, it's unclear. Green tea does have some caffeine. It has less than coffee, but yes, if you're a non-caffeine drinker and you start drinking green tea, then perhaps you have more energy, you're awake longer, you're doing more as well. So that's part of it too.
So stick to coffee.
So stick to coffee. In case anybody is wondering, like I said, green tea does have caffeine. It has about a quarter of the caffeine of a cup of coffee. So if you want a lower caffeine alternative, green tea might be good if that's something that you like. However, a lot of the proponents of green tea say that you should take the extract 4 or 5 times a day or drink at least 5 cups a day. So over the course of a day, you're probably racking up as much caffeine as you would in your 1 or 2 cups of coffee in that day. So that's something to think about. Yes?
I was wondering, when you talk about green tea, I understand there's a difference between what's really considered green tea and oolong tea, and it's often labeled as green tea here, so I was wondering about that.
I know that there is some difference. I'm not exactly sure. Is oolong often considered white tea?
I think it's a black tea.
Well, yeah, I'll actually clear that up. Green tea is the exact same plant as black tea. Green tea, white tea, and black tea are all made from the exact same leaves. It's just the method of production. Green tea is, after it's cultivated, it's dried and steamed, and then it's broken up into small bits, and you steep that. White tea is lightly fermented, or it's younger leaves. I can't remember exactly. You'd have to go look that up. And then black tea is more fermented, which gives it its dark color, and then it's dried and chopped up. So in terms of the difference between the two, there's probably a difference. You'd have to really go and look it up. I'm really not an expert in tea myself, but that would be interesting to know for sure. And then the last claim, I'll get to it here. Again, the antioxidants. Like every superfood, it's full of antioxidants. The antioxidants they're talking about in particular are called catechins. You'll probably see that. It's also known as EGCG. You'll see that on green tea extracts a lot. This, again, is another type of flavonoid. And like I mentioned before, we're really not sure. There's really no conclusive evidence either way about how the flavonoids work. We're really just getting into this area of research. So while they may contain these, whether or not they have a benefit to the human body once consumed is really up for debate. So superfood, yay or nay? Yeah. That's not a bad answer. In terms of a drink, tea in itself has minimal calories. It would be maybe 1 or 2 per cup, which is really negligible. So it's a good non-caloric beverage to fit into a healthy diet. It's something other than water. It's something nice and hot. So it can be a healthy source of hydration. Its disease-fighting claims are really not substantiated. Research results are often mixed or confounded by other factors in the study or poor study design. And for most of these things, the research is still in its infancy. And unless you really like it, it doesn't need to be added to your diet for improved health and nutrition. If you do like it, though, there doesn't seem to be any problem with consuming it. And like I said, it can be lower caffeine if that's something that you're looking for. So my final thoughts on nutrition. I really like this quotation. It's from the American Dietetic Association. The concept of superfoods has captured the interest and imagination of consumers. However, it is more important for the public to eat a super diet than concentrate on individual foods as the key to good health. And that's really the message that I want to bring back to it. This idea of superfoods, it's good to know that there are really nutritious foods out there, but on the whole, it matters what you eat all day, every day. Eating one beneficial thing doesn't cancel out all the chocolate bars that you ate. Or, that one 10-minute walk you took on Sunday doesn't cancel out all the TV watching and sedentary activity you did the rest of the week, right? So it's all about what you do. And we know that eating a balanced diet that includes lots of vegetables and fruit, whole grains, and good source of calcium with adequate protein. That we know that this is a healthful diet that leads to healthy people. And that kind of diet is based on balance and variety. It's not about eating one kind of food. It's about eating all kinds of food. So the idea of superfoods really restricts you to that one kind of food, which means that you may be missing out on all the other great foods that we know are already super out there. So the next time you see a superfood, just think to yourself, how is this a superfood? Do I need to have this in my diet? And, what are the claims that are associated with it? So I hope that was a little enlightening for you. Like I said, I'm really interested in these kinds of things, so I hope it was enjoyable for you.
Any questions?
Any other questions?
What do you know about that probiotic yogurt?
You know what? If I had more time, that was one of the topics I was going to talk
Because
about.
I like yogurt. I'll just eat yogurt. I don't really care if it's. The only trouble I have is now they're selling it for the same price in these little tiny cups, so I got to eat a whole darn case of the stuff. But is there anything to this probiotic?
Again, there is some evidence, and that's really the most conclusive answer I can give. For anybody who doesn't know, probiotic yogurt uses specific types of live bacteria that are thought, or there's some evidence showing that they have beneficial activity in your gut that they can crowd out the bad bacteria that can make you sick. So this is the idea behind it. There is some evidence that this is a good thing, but we also know that yogurt in general, even without the specific probiotic cultures, is a good and beneficial food that contributes to a healthy diet, healthy weight, and that. So the jury's kind of out yet. They're still doing more research. Maybe in a few years we'll have a conclusive answer, but right now we just don't.
My favorite part about them is how they add extra names to the end of the genus and species to make it sound really friendly and awesome in the commercials that don't actually have any merit.
Yeah,
It's great.
yeah, or it's a super subspecies, and it's, yeah. Brendan?
Just to the probiotic thing, if I remember right, Activia and a couple other of the yogurt companies actually got sued and lost some lawsuits over putting that stuff on their labels before there was enough science to verify it. I don't remember specific cases, but...
Yeah, I don't remember either. Like anything else, when there's a new discovery, it gets blown out of proportion, and it's the newest, greatest thing. But, there's definitely a case for more research there, which is always good, because if we can learn something about a food that we're eating, that's always great. But the jury's out.
Do you want to maybe differentiate between prebiotics and probiotics?
Okay, quickly. Probiotics are bacteria, okay? Prebiotics are types of fiber or a carbohydrate, which is starch, that feed these probiotics. Probiotics, these bacteria, really like these certain types of fibers. So you'll see often breads will say prebiotics. They've put a certain type of fiber in. It's usually called inulin. If you see that in your bread, that's the prebiotic. It's supposed to feed the good bacteria in your gut so that they grow more, that will crowd out the bad bacteria.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the probiotics are like the lions and the prebiotics are like the Christians.
Yes, Jem.
Is that inappropriate?
All right. I could honestly talk all day about nutrition. I really love it. So if you have more questions, find me later. I'd be happy to chat. But I will let us all go for a break now, I think.
Yeah.